All right, here we go. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Reyes Reflection Podcast. Free to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, and iHeartRadio. And of course, check me out on Instagram and TikTok at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Now, whether you're a casual fan or you tune in frequently, you may have noticed that it's been a little bit since I put out an episode, but it's really only been a month, and that's because, the holidays and all that stuff. But nonetheless, we are back. This is also a first on the pod because I'm recording in a school. This is the first time I'm recording in a school, which should give you a clue of who my next guest is. She has been a speech pathologist for 20 years. She's a wife, a mother, a free spirit, and an overall remarkable individual. So without further ado, please welcome Belinda Paul.
Hi there.
Thank you for coming
Nice
on.
to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So special thanks again for opening up your classroom. This is a small space, but it's nice, huh?
It is. I mean, it's cozy. I have all the furniture that I need, and the kids seem to like it. So I really like this space.
Yeah, it seems like you've made it into your own. Yes.
I have. When I started at the Daily, I was in literally a closet.
Okay.
I think it was maybe 80 square feet. So this is a real upgrade and a real treat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it. So I know we were trying to do something earlier, and you had a rough couple of weeks. You had COVID, and then you
Yes.
had the stomach bug as well.
Yes. That was really tough. A couple of days ago, too, I ended up falling as I was leaving my garage to get into my car to come to work. So that's kind of been an issue, too. I'm starting to, fall a little bit more and just have to really go slowly and cautiously and be careful.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that. And so we didn't discuss this in the intro, but you do have ALS, which we will definitely get into discussing all that. So, and you just touched on it, that it's a deteriorative disease and it's slow but progressive. And for some people, it's rapid. Is that correct?
For some, it is rapid. From what they tell me, the neurologists, that it really affects everybody differently. The general lifespan is about 2 to 5 years after you show your first symptoms. But again, it can really kind of vary depending upon, who you are and all of that. So
Yeah, just like all diseases,
right,
it's different. Everyone's different.
it's got its own timetable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So from a previous conversation, we had discussed you have lived in quite a few different states. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Maine, Georgia, those were some of them.
Yes, and then I went to graduate school out in Oregon, lived there for a while. I lived in Washington State for a while, so I have been all over the country, and I love to travel and just meet new people.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that. So you grew up in was it Maine?
Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up in Maine. Where in Maine did you grow up?
So I grew up in Elliott, Maine, which is just a really cute tiny little town. It's just over the big green interstate bridge going into from New Hampshire to Maine.
Also right on the border.
Yeah, right on the border.
Okay.
Grew up in a house that's been in my family since 1830. The land's been there for us since the 1700s, so definitely my family is well planted in that area of the neck of the woods.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you grew up in Maine, and when did you start to drift off, going to different places after? Because a lot of people, when they grow up in like small cities, small towns like that, they want to just stay there forever. Like they get acclimated to the surroundings. What about yourself, really, in which you were like, hey, I'm going to venture out. I'm going to try different things. I'm going to go different places.
So at that time, this was back in the 90s when the big grunge movement was, coming on, and people were like flocking to Seattle. And I just got this idea, well, why don't I go to Seattle? I mean, it's, probably going to be a lot of fun. I'll meet some interesting people. And then at that point, I had a phone conversation with a friend of mine, my best friend from elementary school. Her name is Alex, and she was getting her master's in speech language pathology. And I said, oh, maybe that's something I'll try. And so I did a little research, figured out where some of the programs were in the Northwest. And then I had intended to move to Seattle and took a little trip down to Portland and just fell in love. I mean, Portland is just a really great place. Quirky, kind of weird, like a lot of alternative people.
Big on coffee, right?
Big on coffee,
Yeah,
yes.
coffee
Starbucks.
shops, which we discussed off camera. You are not a big coffee drinker.
No, just tea, tea. So I landed in Oregon and found a place to live. I didn't know anybody at the time, and I just built a life there and got my master's degree.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went East Coast, West Coast, back East Coast,
Yeah.
but you also lived In Georgia, so that's like
Yes.
southern east. Yeah, yeah. How did you end up in Georgia?
So my current husband, we dated for quite a while, and we kind of, we would kind of like date, and then we wouldn't date, and then we date some more. And so he is from the South, and he got his first job out of college in Georgia.
Yep.
And he said, "All right, let's do this. Come to Georgia." So I said, "Okay." Like I really loved Oregon, and when I was driving out the Columbia Gorge on I-84, I was in tears. I will admit it. I just didn't want to leave, but I also loved, my fiance and wanted to be with him. So that's when I moved to Georgia. I was there for about 15 years.
Nice. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in Georgia for 15 years.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Georgia? Like, cause I've only ever been to Atlanta.
So I lived in a really gorgeous town called Marietta, which is about 20 miles northwest.
Okay.
Very nice town, just beautiful town center, and lots of shopping and stores, antiques and all of that. It definitely was a really nice town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's really cool. So you really have explored, seen other places, things like that. I have also been to Seattle. I do like Seattle. I think it's a very, very pretty city.
Incredible.
I like it a lot.
Especially if you're outdoorsy, which I used to be. It's just a perfect place to be.
That's right, because you were an avid hiker, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think I saw something of that. Cool.
I've been to Glacier National Park probably at least 15 times.
Oh, wow.
And then I was married on top of Mount Washington.
No way.
I'm a little obsessed with the mountains.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I mean, it's a beautiful scenery. My brother was married on a mountain as well, and it was just nice to look out, watch it, see it. It's just one of those cool atmospheres. Like it's almost this outer life being experience of what you're kind of like, oh wow, I'm literally in a mountain right now. Like, it is really cool. It just
adds to just the whole spectacularness of the day.
Yeah, it's definitely an aesthetic.
Yes.
Most definitely. Yes, I agree. Because I also like hiking as well. I'm not an avid hiker, but I do like it. More for training, but I do enjoy it, running up a mountainside, things like that, to try to get yourself conditioned. So that's really cool. So I also know that you said to me that your heart is in Oregon, though, right?
Yeah.
So what about the Pacific Northwest is it that really just pulls at your heartstrings and really just ties you over there?
I think that probably the nature, because it's everywhere you look. I mean, you could be driving down the highway and you look over to the right and there's Mount Hood. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have a lot of volcanoes, and so they're on a non-rainy day, like you can see them. Like, it's an incredible experience.
Really?
So I would say the nature, and then the people are just. I met a lot of like really good friends that I'm still friends with to this day.
Yeah.
Very friendly people, and it just was just a magical time of life where everything just sort of lines up, and. I just can't say enough good about Oregon.
It's a different style of living. I feel like just even West Coast to East Coast is just a different style of living.
I agree. I feel like it's just a little bit more laid back.
I concur.
And even down in the South, definitely a little more laid back. The Northeast is nice, and I do like it here. It's my roots. But I feel like it's not quite as laid back as other places.
I agree, and I feel like for me personally, I prefer to be more laid back. That's just who I am as an individual. So, did you grow up with siblings? Any family dynamic? How was that growing up?
I did. So I have two older sisters. We're the three Bs. I'm Belinda, and then I have Becky's my oldest sister, and then Brenda's the middle child.
Okay.
And they are both still up in Maine. They chose not to leave.
Oh, okay. So they do what I said at the beginning of the episode, where you stay in one spot your whole life. Yep.
Yeah. I was sort of kind of like a little bit of the black sheep because I wanted to move, and I think maybe people didn't understand why. It was, no offense against this area, but I just wanted to explore a little bit. So that's what I chose to do.
I feel that you and I are two kindred spirits in that regard, because I'm the black sheep. I'm the one that likes to go out and do different things, and a little bit more. I think my family, they love me, of course, but I think they view me as a little bit more eccentric than, and
me too.
So I definitely feel that sentiment. So, how was it with two older siblings growing up?
It was okay. We got into usual sibling fights, like pull each other's hair.
Stealing each other's clothes.
Definitely the clothes, because we shared one closet. The house was really tiny, like 1,200 square feet. So, I'd go in and maybe get my sister's jeans, and like we would kind of, definitely steal each other's clothing. But I'd say all in all, it was good. Like, we generally got along.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep. My brothers stole my clothing, and we're brothers. So I can, Yeah, I know.
Is
And
this your older brother? Or
no,
your
he was
younger?
my younger brother, and this is
Yeah.
a funny. He's gonna hate that I say this, but this is what he did. So, back then, a few like 15 years ago, when I was in my awkward middle school stage, Axe body spray was a huge like the
My
cologne.
son wears it.
Yeah. Okay. So we used to go ahead and spray it on our clothes, go to school, what have you. And as a boy, you said you had your son. You have two sons, right?
2 sons and a daughter.
And a daughter. So I don't know how your sons operate, but as boys, most of the time, we do a smell check. We lift up the shirt and we go, okay, it smells fine. I'll put it back on.
That's how they operate. You got it. At least the middle one.
Exactly.
Yes.
So my brother, I would go ahead and I'd put it in my hamper. He would go ahead, take it and go, oh, it smells good. It smells like Nathanael, and wear it. And I'm like, dude, I sweated in that yesterday. But I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, he's going to hate that I said that. But I mean, it is true. It is all factual. But it was, I mean, we all did quirky things when we were kids growing up. I mean, that's just who we are as people.
Definitely.
I mean, I was there because I was always the antagonist with my siblings because I was the middle.
Yeah.
So I would like to play pranks on my siblings, and I feel like I still do that now, where I play pranks on friends, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know how that happened, and it was solely me. But
So are they good with that? Are you pretty close with your siblings? Have they?
They've understood it. They've embraced it. But again, going back to circulating, back to what we said, being the black sheep, like just having a little bit more of a different nature. Because as much as I love my siblings, we joke a lot, but to them, there's a certain level of stoicism.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't have that.
Same
like,
with mine. Yeah.
Which, no disrespect to it. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, that's not my personality. So for them, they're very stoic and they'll crack a joke here and there. But like for me, it's 90% joking, 10% serious. And for them, it's reversed.
Right.
It's 90% serious, 10% joking.
And I feel like a lot of that is also being from New England. I think we just are kind of stoic people.
Yes.
Don't like to complain. We get about our business. We're on time everywhere. Like that just seems to be like the heart of a New Englander, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
And
all
that's
right.
and that's just not like you said, I'm more of a laid back, relaxed outdoorsman. I love being outdoors. I'm very big into earthing, and I love just like I'll be walking trails, and obviously I like to make sure they're cleared, but I'll walk barefoot. I just like the feeling of walking in nature and having my feet in sand and dirt and beaches. So,
Yeah.
which
It's like an extra sensation for you.
it is,
Yeah.
it is, and my siblings think that's more hippie and more hip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, oh no, that's just really like I like it. Like going evolutionary, like primarily we are walked around barefoot
Exactly.
for many, many years. So I was like, as a primal instinct, like that is a nice feeling. And even as a kid, you think about it, when you were 4 or 5, you ran in your backyard in the grass.
Oh yeah, we had a
barefoot
couple
all
of
the time.
acres, and I would just be out there like all day long. Like it's just so different these days.
It is, and
Yeah.
it's very troubling. I have a hard time when kids are on screens most of the time.
Yes.
And it's very challenging. And I'm even though I'm younger, I'm an old-fashioned individual because I'm a pen and paper guy. Like I do better when as you
See
can see
that, yeah.
in my notes here, it's a pen and paper. Like I have a hard time with screens and learning this type of stuff. But I mean, you adjust, but it's still a challenge. At least for me, it is. But so I want to ask you this: while you were growing up, what was your first job?
My first job was babysitting. I was 12.
Okay.
And my sisters did the same thing. So we were basically like the Paul girls, like call us up, we'll babysit for you, like next door. And then even like my dad's coworkers, I would babysit their kids. And so that was the first job.
And did it go one after after the first one
Yeah.
aged out, then the next one,
Yes,
then you?
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So they got many years of like three girls babysitting their kids. So yeah, that was the first one.
That was like my family with a paper route. I don't even think they have a paper route nowadays, but it was like my family with a paper route. My oldest brother started it. Then I started it. Then my younger brother started it, and then we just kind of stopped after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those around Christmas, it was the best because they left a little envelope with a little bonus for you.
I bet you look forward to that every year.
I did.
That's funny you say that because the next job, the official job, was at Shaw's supermarket.
Okay.
And both of my sisters worked there too. So sometimes we would all like be there together.
Really?
So we all kind of worked at the same place.
Okay, so it was similar to me in the
Yeah.
regard of after that, working at Hannaford.
Oh.
And my siblings worked at that too.
Oh, wow.
So, like you said, that wow, like pretty interesting about how we would going to work, and my brother would be working from like 12 to 5, and then I'd be working from like 3 to 6. So we'd be in between our shifts. I know it wasn't.
So you couldn't really coordinate the car ride.
No, it wasn't really practical for carpooling, but we made it work. We had a good time. I walked mostly everywhere I went, so it kind of worked out that way. I still had a good time. It was fun. It was a good time to work, see my sibling. But my youngest one, he, because of age liability and things like that, he could only work X amount of hours regardless.
I think 3-hour shifts.
Exactly.
Times a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, as previously mentioned, we said you're a speech pathologist.
Yes.
Look, I need it right now as I'm fumbling over my words.
You're good.
Walk me to that point. How did you? So you said you went to school in Oregon.
Yes.
When was it for you of like, hey, I want to be a speech pathologist. I want to work with kids. I want to, I want to do something like that. When was that for you?
So at the time I was living in Portland, Maine, and I had graduated with a degree in French from University of Southern Maine. Obviously couldn't do much with that.
No.
And so that friend of mine, the childhood friend, we happened to call each other one time, or she might have been in town. And I said, what are you doing? And she told me, and I said, wow, that sounds like something like right up my alley. Like I love languages, and I'd been working with disabled adults at that point as like a personal care attendant.
Okay.
And so I thought that's a really good mixture of the two. I worked with kids with disabilities and adults, and I love languages, so I'm going to give this a shot. And so I just moved out west, not really knowing if it was going to work out, not understanding how competitive it was to get into graduate school, and just worked really hard. I just said, I have to do this because I wasn't making a lot of money. I wasn't really going anywhere. And I knew like, this is it. I have to do this. So it's do or die.
So your degree is in French?
Yeah. So I have a bachelor's in French. And then when I went to Oregon, I had to take some post-baccalaureate classes. So that was 2 years of those. And then I applied to grad school and was lucky enough to get into a couple of places.
So what does c'est la vie mean? Is that French? That's French, right?
Oh, yeah. It means that's life. C'est la vie. That's life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I've heard that saying. And, I've heard someone say, like, because I'm Spanish. And so I know that they say así la vie, which is, like, similar to it. It's
así la vida?
Yeah, which is similar to it. And so I was like, oh, pretty interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that you had a French background. Yeah.
I have a minor in Spanish.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so
okay.
I spent some time in Costa Rica. Learning Spanish, and then I was in France for a while learning French. So I love languages. They're fun.
Nice. So do you feel like you could go to France and be able to like hold your own, have a conversation? Do you feel no,
not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay, so years ago
I could probably understand a little bit, but it's been so long since I got that degree. It'd be hard.
So it really is one of those things. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I definitely hear they use a lot of Spanish, so my Spanish abilities are better.
Yeah.
But French, not so much.
Oh, so the demographic of children that are coming to you are primarily, I'm sure, Hispanic over French.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. I mean, you learn something new every day. I didn't know that you were into French. I've always wanted to learn the language, but I just feel like I was never able to access that part of my brain. I don't know why. I struggle with it. Like I've wanted to take up Spanish because I've wanted to be able to go into a foreign country and be able to hold my own.
Yeah.
But because and it happens to me too. I feel like I have predominantly dark features, and so there have been times where I've had people who have noticed that and they've tried to talk to me in Spanish.
So they just assume.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, un poquito. Like I'm like, I am Spanish, but I don't speak it. So.
Yeah. Did your folks speak Spanish when you were growing up?
They did. So Spanish was the first language for my dad because he was a immigrant. For my mom, she was fluent in both English and Spanish. But it was really one of those things where when my folks split up, my dad just kind of like stopped teaching us, and because we didn't live with him and we didn't have to communicate with him as frequently in that regard. Because it was one of those things where it's like when we were home, we were speaking in Spanish because my dad and my mom could do it. But when we were at school, we were speaking in English.
Yeah.
But I did grow up primarily speaking English. I will admit that. But it was just one of those things to tone up on our Spanish and to learn it. We were speaking it at home, and I just didn't really stick with it after my folks split up. It's hard because all my cousins still do. Like they're bilingual.
fluent.
Yeah. And they're
Nice.
fluent, and we're just not. So it's almost like we're outsiders because yes, we are all Hispanic, but we don't speak it.
Right.
But I understand it. Like if somebody were to have a conversation, I can understand it.
So they could speak to you in Spanish and you just respond in English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
I do know what they're saying. Exactly. And I think a lot of it is, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you would know because you're very big into languages, but I feel like it's one of those things where you can actually kind of use context clues to understand what people are saying.
Oh, definitely.
So I feel like I'm able to pick up on that a lot easier than most. At least that's just me.
If you can understand just the key words of what they're saying, you're definitely going to be able to make an inference about what they're talking about.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm proud to say I'm one of those individuals that can actually understand it and not just the curse words. You know how there's some people that say that?
Yeah.
I'm proud to say I'm not one of those
That's
individuals.
That's good. That helps your reputation for sure. You don't just want to know the curse words.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So switching gears here, we said that you're a mother. You have two sons and a daughter.
Yes. So I have an 18-year-old. He just turned 18 Christmas Eve, Benjamin. He's off to college.
Congratulations.
Probably heading to Purdue in the September. And then I have Sam. He's my middle child. He's 16, sorry. He is not crazy about school. So he'd probably end up like in a trade. And then I have Amelia. That's my daughter. She's 14. She is super creative. She plays the violin. She plays the piano. She draws. She writes. Like she's just a triple threat. She's so awesome. I would say since my diagnosis, I've definitely gotten closer with my son Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
I think because he knows he's going off to college and he's probably going to be far away if he chooses to go to Purdue, and I think he will. So he makes it a point to come to me. We talk for hours, and he has said he's looking at Purdue or possibly UMass Amherst, and he said, I don't know where to go, Mom, because if I go far away, I'm not going to see you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a better program, so there are just a lot of just factors that go into this, and it's a very difficult decision for him. But I'd say in general, I've gotten much closer with my kids because they're teenagers, so they tend to self-isolate in their rooms. But they're
as most teenagers do.
They're definitely out of those rooms more, and they're making it a point to talk to me because we have a lot of very tough talks to have.
Most definitely, and so we'll transition into that. So covered by local news networks. You were diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, for those who know it as that. To those who are unfamiliar with the disease, what can you describe or explain what this is?
So I will say the first time I learned about ALS was in graduate school, and I just remember the professor saying, you would never wish this on your worst enemy. It's a disease that basically disconnects the brain from your voluntary muscles because the little cells in the brain are dying. And so because they're dying, you can't transmit nerve impulses to make the muscles move. And once your muscles are not used, they atrophy and you just can no longer use them. So some people will start with limb onset, which is me. I first noticed that I was having weakness. I was trying to go up the stairs at work. It was 3 flights of stairs and I just started to have trouble. And I thought, well, I'm 54. I'm just getting old. Even though I'm a hiker, I'm getting old. And then it gradually transitioned into just twitching, constant twitching of your muscles. My right leg started twitching, then it spread to my left leg. And I knew at that point, twitching is okay, but not 24 hours a day.
So it was persistent twitching.
It was persistent twitching.
So it wasn't like a just general spasm.
No, it was just twitch. Some people have what's called a bulbar onset, and that means it affects their swallowing, speaking, breathing. I do not have that. I have more of the limb onset. Eventually, the disease will go up to my swallowing muscles, my speaking, my breathing. So far, I'm very lucky not to have that happen. But so I went to my regular neurologist, a local neurologist in June, and said, okay, can you tell me what's going on here? He did a very thorough evaluation, and then he said, okay, I'm very concerned. I need to, refer you to a neuromuscular specialist. And he said possible muscle disorder or possible motor neuron disease, which is ALS. Mm-hmm. So I went to Brigham and Women's, and they still were a little bit uncertain. They'd ran some tests, and they said, we're not really sure. And so what they did was something called an EMG, which is where they stick a needle into your muscles just to see how the muscle is going to react. And so all of my muscles were just twitching. Every single muscle they poked was twitching. They said, this is really looks like ALS because you have every single muscle twitching. So that was in July, and I said, okay, I want a second opinion. I mean, this is huge.
In this past July?
Yeah, past July. So it took about 6 weeks, and I ended up going to Mass General Hospital, and I have a wonderful neurologist. Her name is Dr. Babu, and she did a few other tests, like heavy metal testing to rule things out. She tested, I think, my thyroid. They did just a lot of blood tests to rule out mimic diseases, and she said, no, this diagnosis is sound, and you have ALS. And that was in September. So,
wow. And so that you were diagnosed back in September. Honestly, I don't know how I don't even know how I would react to hearing that, because I'm speechless, because that is very challenging. I can only imagine for you as an individual who was pretty healthy for the most part.
Very healthy, yeah.
Yep.
Other
And then
than this.
all of a sudden it just kind of just flipped on its head just one day, and it was a slow progression.
Yes.
That's very upsetting, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's incurable.
It's incurable, yeah. Now, the FDA did just approve a new drug called Relyvrio. So, most people with ALS, I would think, are probably on it. There are 3 drugs currently. They can extend your life for just a few months, but the problem is they don't really understand what's going on in those cells, so they don't really know the mechanism to cure it. Some people have a genetic form of ALS. I was tested, and it seems like it's not genetic for me. So there are some genetic form treatments, but 10% is genetic and 90% is what they call sporadic. It just happens, and you don't know why. You just don't know.
And nobody really knows with diseases. And as you said earlier in the episode, everyone's body handles diseases differently, even a common cold. Or, everyone's body handles it differently.
Exactly.
So isn't there a celebrity that had Stephen Hawkins, right? Yeah, and he survived, what, 50 plus?
50 years.
Yeah, 50 plus years after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know Roberta Flack? She's an old 70s soul singer. I love her music.
No.
Killing Me Softly with his song.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
The Fugees did that.
Okay.
She was just diagnosed with it. She's, I think, 75.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it can happen at any point in your life.
Any point in your life, it can happen. I think there are even some adolescents that get it. And there's no rhyme nor reason. They just don't know why. But it's generally between the ages of 50 and 80.
Okay.
That you get it.
Yeah. So, like all things, most of the time it's when you're a little older.
Yes.
But everyone's different.
Yes.
It's sporadic. So you went through some pretty extensive tests, I imagine, to figure this out.
Very extensive, yes. Blood tests, clinical tests, they test my muscles whenever I go in. Also that EMG, that needle muscle test. I also went through nerve conduction studies, so not very comfortable, but they stick another, I think it was a probe, and they make sure that the nerve is not what the problem is. So yeah, there are a lot
there's no nerve damage or something like that? Okay.
Exactly. Because it can be
no worries.
Immunity related, you could have a disease that's related to your immune system, like an overactive immune system.
Yep.
They said that's not your issue. So many blood tests, but the gold standard is that EMG, because when you have ALS, the muscles and nerves act a certain way, especially the muscles.
Okay.
And they said that we know that that's what this is because of that EMG.
So it's a deteriorating muscle disease in layman's terms.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So a lot of treatments, I imagine, or at least a lot to help you at least regulate or to help make better, assuage? Is there?
So there are 3 current medications, and those, again, will buy you a few months time. Also, I take vitamin B12 shots in my thighs a couple of times a week. There was a study in Japan that showed that slowed the progression of the symptoms. I guess what's really better now than years ago is that there's so much therapy, OT, PT. So anytime you need some sort of adaptive equipment, you ask them and you go on Amazon and there it is.
Yeah.
And it's at your house.
Nice.
So I think it's much easier to manage the functional challenges, but in terms of a cure or something that's really going to extend your life for a long time, it's just not there.
Yeah.
It's not there, and it's a very underfunded disease.
It's inevitable, is what you're saying.
It's fatal 100% of the time.
Now, as an individual who knows that it's fatal, how have you managed to have such a positive perspective on life. I'm sure, like all things, it hits people differently. It's probably has hit you in ways maybe behind the scenes, obviously, where your family has seen it. But how have you been able to manage that? I like to think I'm a really strong individual. When I hear things like this, I'm like, okay, no, I am not even close.
I think you would find it within yourself. You have a child, right?
Yes.
You would find it. You have to find it for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be crying all day and being negative all day. And I tell my kids there are silver linings to this disease. One of them is this incredible family at the Daily that I'm surrounded by every single day. They lift me up. They've been amazing. I think, too, because I'm coming to work and things are somewhat normal here, that's definitely helping because it's a way to keep me active and busy. But the people in this building are just incredible. That has helped. So my motto is, if I only have a certain amount of time left, why would I want to be negative?
Mm-hmm.
Let's be positive. There's plenty of time to stew, and, when I'm not able to walk or eat or swallow, then I can be maybe a little bit negative. But for now, except with the difficulty walking, I'm still managing my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel positive and lucky for that.
So a lot of it for you is just the perspective of being thankful for what you can be thankful for and what you still have.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, with these type of illnesses, you kind of alluded to it. It can really rally some people together as it has done in the community of your work and your family. But we would be remiss and almost dishonest if we didn't say that there's probably a significant impact that it could play for the people around you as well, in terms of them being sad watching it,
Yes.
How has your family been able to handle these adjustments? I'm sure you've had some modifications in your home and things like that. How have they been able to handle it? I'm sure they're handling it with grace and love, but are you noticing any sort of negative impact on them and things like that?
Can I comment first on my work family?
Of course.
That? So when I made the decision last September to come back to school, I was, a bit nervous because I knew I was forcing my, trusted colleagues to watch me decline, and that's not going to be a pleasant thing for them. And I knew that, and I somewhat carry some guilt about that, because who wants to watch somebody that was, bubbly, racing up and down the hallway a year ago using a walker? And I've fallen a couple of times here, so I was definitely aware of that. And I think through an email I let coworkers know, I know you have to watch this. I'm very sorry, in advance. So my family, I'll just give you an example. Last night, my daughter came down to talk to me, and she doesn't cry often. She's pretty stoic. And she just, thank you.
Of course.
She basically said to me, "Mom, I'm never going to get over your death." And I said, "You will. You will get over my death. You're going to definitely have some dark times, but if you give yourself time, time heals everything. It heals everything. And eventually, when you remember the things that we've done together, it's going to be sad for years, but eventually you're going to remember the good times, and you'll be able to smile when you're remembering your mom." So that was a very difficult conversation. Mm-hmm. My middle son is definitely having more trouble in school. I think focusing is hard for him because of this. Their school community has been wonderful too. The counselors are, at Acton Boxborough, they're there to talk to my children. And then of course I said my oldest son is just down talking to me all the time, but I know it makes them sad to see me. Like every week it's like, okay, what's declining now? What am I not going to be able to do now? But I do find too with the disease, if I move every day, if I do my PT every day, if I ride my bike every day, I definitely can maintain some strength. So I'm just fighting as hard as I can just to maintain the function. But and then I know for my husband, it's put a lot of pressure on him. He's had to become the cook, bottle washer, all of that, things that he's never really had to do before. So that's been a lot of pressure on him. He has to, he drives me to work, he picks me up, but for the most part, they're pretty stoic, but I know inside it really deeply bothers them.
Yeah. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. And I was fighting back tears there.
Yeah.
As you can see, we're doing this in person, so it's definitely one of those things in which I think, you said that your daughter said, "I'll never be able to get over it," and you said, "Oh, you are." For me personally, I lost my grandfather, who was very, very close to me, and he was almost like a father figure.
I'm sorry.
Towards me. And the reason why I share this because I still haven't gotten over it. I'm 29. I was gonna say 28, but my birthday was a few months ago rather. I feel like when you get older, your days are just blended all together.
Especially once you hit 30. It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
race line to the finish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I share that because I still have never gotten over it. But what he said to me one time, and this is something that's stuck with me, and I hope your daughter hears what I'm gonna say, is you never really do get over it. But what happens is every day you get stronger, and every day it's still there. And something else that he said to me was, I'm a living embodiment of him. So your daughter is a living embodiment of you. So despite the fact that death is inevitable for all of us, some sooner than others because of diseases, much like yourself, it's one of those things in which how you handle it and who you are, and it shows your strength is showing by your daughter. And I just want to say that your daughter is a very strong individual. So are your kids. So is your husband. We mentioned earlier in the episode I have a daughter, so I'm a little sensitive to daughters. I've always been a girl dad. I'm one of those ones that's like, nope, I'm a girl dad through and through. So your daughter's a very strong individual to be able to even have that conversation, because I feel like a lot of times people will just hold on to that and they don't say anything because they don't want to make the other person feel bad, or they don't want to make them upset or make them sad. And the fact that she was just so open and honest with you and saying, hey, Mom, you mean this much to me.
Yeah.
And that it's going to impact me for a very, very long time, which it will. And it will affect everyone in the community you work with as well.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful that you shared that story, because it really is something that I needed to hear. I'm glad that I can hear it because it helps me as an individual as well. Just even being empathetic to other people who are going through things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I think another thing too is, my kids are teenagers, and so anything can be difficult for a teenager to process, but something like this I think is especially difficult. They're just entering uncertain times in their lives. I'm sure you remember back when you were a teenager, it's not an easy time. And then to have to throw this on top of it, I just feel, so badly. My middle son the other day, he said to me, Mom, why would God do this? Why would God, kind of give you this if he had the power not to? And I'm not a particularly religious person. My husband is. And I said, you're going to have to give that question to your dad. And even my husband couldn't really answer that. So kind of a funny story. I'm friends with their nurse practitioner. She's wonderful, Julie Mullison. And I was telling her she has a soft spot for my son, Sam. And I said, Sam said this to me. I don't know what to say to him. And she said, I've got a priest. I'm going to call the priest. And she said, I'm going to get the direct line to God. We'll get you an answer. So, I'm waiting for the answer. But I don't really know how to answer that. It's a really hard question.
Again, losing someone that I loved as well, that was a parental figure for me. I asked that too. Because we grew up in a very religious setting, but I feel like as I've gotten older, I wouldn't necessarily say beliefs are gone, but I would say religious views for me are diminished. And so it's one of those things in which I still sometimes, question certain things as your son is. And it's crazy because when you're a teenager, you're questioning life in general.
Yes.
You're questioning just everything, who you are,
yes,
who your family is, what you want to be. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. It's so challenging to tell an 18, 19-year-old when they go to college, hey, what do you want to be for the rest of your life? What? I don't even think they know who they want to be in the next year, And so it's one of those things where it's like, as a teenager, you already have a full plate. Yes. You have all your academics, your extracurricular activities, whether they be sports or, in your daughter's cases, the violin and other multifaceted, talented hobbies. But regardless, when you put something like this on, I'm sure the weight of the world is just on.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's on everyone's shoulders, yourself included.
It's a lot to process. And then, when you think of teenagers as they get older, they want more independence, yet they want that, but I also want them to come to me because I don't know how much time I have left. And I'll say this to them, we really have to spend like quality time now because I'm very honest with them, maybe a little too honest. And I'll just say, I don't know how much quality time we're going to have left, so please come down and visit me. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult. It's that dynamic of I want to be independent from mom, but mom's probably not going to be around too much longer.
Right.
It's just so difficult and confusing probably for them.
And I'm sure it is because, as you stated, it's weighing on your oldest who's debating on, hey, do I go to school an hour and a half away from mom, or do I go to school hours?
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, most definitely. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the vast majority of people would choose to stop working if they were in your shoes. Maybe I'm wrong.
I can't.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you choose to get up every day and still work with these students. Why is it so important for you to continue to do this?
So I would say it's a little bit of a selfish motive, Nathanael. I notice even on weekends when I'm sitting around, not really doing much. I live in a tiny house, so I don't do a lot. I come back on Monday and I'm, a little bit weaker. So the selfish reason is just to keep me in better shape physically, but also there's a benefit mentally. I love working with the kids. They just lift me up. They make me laugh. And it's just on both fronts, physical and mental, it's just a good thing for me. And I said to, Mr. Doyle, our principal, the minute I feel like I can't be an effective speech therapist, I'm out of here. I need to be able to keep, doing my job well. And if I can't, that's when I'm going to leave. At least
that shows your work ethic, because you're saying, hey, and it's not too selfish, because even though you said selfishly at first, it's not too selfish because you're saying, if I can't do it efficiently,
right.
I will resign. I will step down.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, most definitely. I respect that, because I feel like for me, if I have a common cold, I'm like, hey, no, I don't want to work. Like I like find a reason to not work. Whereas for you, you have a legitimate reason to not, and you're still choosing to do it. How has your diagnosis affected, whether it be positive or negative, your interaction and relationship with the kids?
So I really do try to be pretty careful about how I phrase this, how I tell them what's going on. I have told them I have a disorder. I've kind of changed that to disease and made sure that they know they're not going to catch it. It's just me. My family doesn't have it. You're not going to catch this. But I do try in advance to explain, you're going to see the walker over here because I'm not able to walk very well anymore. And I definitely have used them a little bit, like, can you change the date on the board for me? Can you go grab that game? Can you pick that up off the floor? And they're always, kids love to help.
Yeah.
They're always willing to help. And they're like, oh, sure, Miss Paul. And then
they love that responsibility.
They do. They love it. And so one time I was working with a girl, and I have a kind of my pencil grasp is gone. So I was like, using the pencil this way. And she said, Ms. Paul, why do you hold your pencil like that? Most kids don't notice those things, but she did. And I said, well, I have a disease and it's kind of hurting my hands, and that's why I have to hold my pencil this way. So I would say it's probably affected them minimally. I have not said I am going to die, and I will not say that.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably for the best, but
Yeah.
pretty impressive on that student.
Yes.
For the attention to detail on
I know.
that.
You are the first one that's even mentioned my declining abilities. So
right.
I was honest. I told her I have a muscle disease, and it's making it hard for me to do that. But I won't mention that it's fatal. Now, for the older kids, I have said I have ALS, so I know they can go home and look it up. They've seen my interviews too. But
right, because everything's on the internet
everything
now.
is there, but I do not mention the fatal aspect.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, which probably for the best. Have you been able to be more empathetic to the students who do have other underlying conditions as well? Because you have kind of say, hey, now I have a a disorder or a disease. Do you kind of put yourself in their shoes in certain places now?
Definitely, definitely. Because I know eventually I'm going to end up in a wheelchair. So just thinking about that and not being able to ever stand up and walk again, it definitely gives you a whole new level of appreciation for what these students go through. For sure. Yes.
For something as simple as just walking or even eating, which is something that you do, just even babies when they're first born, they know how to eat. They know how to swallow.
Yep.
For something that like that for you, it's really one of those things where you almost like, for me, I'm like, wow, I should be thankful that I'm able to do those things. Because you said, hey, it's started with my legs, it's going slowly up and it's deteriorating. How thankful are you that you're still able to do what you can do, go to work, function, have these open conversations, and be so coherent and honest about it?
So thankful. I'm just so thankful, and I want to try to ride this train for as long as I can. I don't think I've ever been more thankful about anything in my life, in fact.
Really?
Yes. So grateful, thankful. And again, I could not do this without the support of these amazing people that I work with. They have brought me equipment, adaptive equipment. I'm sitting on this cushion.
Yeah.
Mr. Young, Bob Young, spray painted a little sandy area over there, so I have a grip with my...
Let me take... Oh, yeah.
Right there,
Yeah.
He's brought me a printer. They've done fundraising. They bring the kids to me. I don't have to go get them anymore. I mean, it's just, really couldn't do this job without that. I would have to quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have an eclectic spectrum of just great individuals that have helped, supported you.
Yes.
And it seems like you have that all around, which probably helps your spirits stay so optimistic.
Yes.
I agree. So, but I am sure that you've had moments where it's hit you, and again, as we stated early in the episode, probably behind closed doors at your home. To be frank, you're one of the strongest people I know. Just even having this conversation, being so open. How have you managed to maintain this mindset of just positivity? I know you've said, with people who you work and your family, but how has Belinda been able to maintain this perspective, this mindset?
So let me just be clear. I don't always maintain this, and I think more at home, that's where I'm not maintaining. If I have a setback, let's say I have a fall, I kind of lose my confidence. And I had another fall. I'm really declining. So I have said to my husband, it might be time to quit the job. I don't know if I can do this anymore, but I know that's the wrong thing to do. So I don't know. I don't know how to tell you. I don't know, Nathanael, how I maintain this.
Yeah.
I think I've always been kind of a half glass full kind of gal, and that's just my personality, and I think that has served me well. So
it's kind of just translated now as you're getting older, wiser, more intelligent, more emotionally stable, that you started with the glass half full type of person anyways, and you've now still carried that on as you've gotten older.
Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I had a father who was a Marine, and he was very, mow that lawn. If you're missing a patch, go take the mower out there and mow it. He just he had 3 daughters, and we are all very tough people.
Yes.
Very tough, and I thank my dad for that.
Well, I can't stress how strong you are, how incredible of an individual you are. I strive to be like you at some point in my life, so I'm incredibly thankful that you shared your story, and one that is just filled with strength and courage. You're very commendable.
Thank you, Nathanael.
Now, I'm aware that there is a GoFundMe account. Is that still active?
There is, yep, it
is.
is. Mm-hmm.
So how can people assist? How can people donate to that? What is there a link? How can people access this?
There is. I think if you go on GoFundMe and just type in GoFundMe and then maybe Belinda Paul, it might come right up to that.
Okay.
And then there's a picture of me there. So that's how they can donate, just by going to that website, I believe.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's do some rapid fire questions to wrap up the show.
Okay.
So, all right. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone going through adversity?
I would say try to maintain that positive attitude. Lean on your family, lean on your friends. Don't be scared to ask for help, because they love you and they truly want to help you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your favorite food?
I love Thai food.
Thai food.
Yeah, love
okay.
It. I love coconut soup and mushroom soup.
So the first time I ever had Thai food was actually in Seattle. I went with my friend Chris, and he was like, we went to some pier, and he was like, hey, do you like Thai food? And I was like, never had it. And he took me to this place, and I had like a curry soup. Yeah, and it was really good. So
did you go to Pike's Market where they throw the fish?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
fun.
Yes.
I love that place.
Yeah, Seattle was a really cool place. Very diverse, very interesting group of people. But I definitely liked it. I was only there for, I want to say 4 or 5 days. So I wasn't there too long. But it was a good time. I liked it, and I tried a lot of great restaurants. Like there was a vegan restaurant that I tried out there just because my friend was a vegan, and we were like, all right, you know what, fine, we'll give it a shot. And it was a good time. It was a really good time. If you could be an animal, any animal, what would you be?
I would be a bird.
A bird.
Probably a bird of prey because, I don't want to be low on the totem pole for the food chain.
Yeah, right.
Just so I could just see, everything because I love mountains. So it'd be like a bird's eye view of mountain chains and definitely a bird. How about
an
you?
Eagle?
Eagle, yeah.
Okay, so I would be an eagle or a wolf. So that's why I was
Predator.
And I think it's because I was even though I'm a very social individual, there are times where my social battery almost gets diminished, and I want my alone time, and people are like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. Sometimes I need my alone time. I share that because I one time had a coach say to me, during big games, I would always just sit by myself. I wouldn't sit with the team. I would still be locked in.
What sport?
Basketball.
Okay.
And I would still be locked in. And he came to me one day and he said, you're going to be something special. And I said, how come? And he goes, because pigeons flock together, eagles fly alone. And I was like, whoa. And ever since he said that has really stayed with me.
What a compliment.
Yeah. So, no, I definitely like that, like, tough, by yourself, fly, but like you can still be with like wolves go and pack as well, but they're strong enough
to handle it alone.
Alone.
Exactly.
Yep. No, so that would be me. That would be me. What is your favorite season?
Fall.
I was gonna say autumn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love the colors. Great hiking weather. Mosquitoes are usually done their assault on us. I love the fall.
There's I don't know about Pacific Northwest because I went in the summer. But in the West Coast, California, there is no mosquitoes.
Because it's dry.
Oh, is that why?
Parts of Oregon, too, like I was in Eugene to go to graduate school. You can literally sit out at night and not have any bug spray because it's very dry in the summer.
Okay.
In fact, all that beautiful green of the winter turns into like straw and hay color.
Yep.
Same thing with Oregon. You could sit outside, which is wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, where's one place you would love to visit?
So I was watching a little bit of a documentary this morning on Greenland, and it looked absolutely incredible. Greenland, Iceland, all like just these way off places. Patagonia. Yeah,
Patagonia.
Chile.
And Patagonia has beautiful mountains and things like that too. So, I mean, you would definitely get your fix on mountains.
So definitely a mountain location.
Now, just an off-the-cuff question about your love for nature. Have you ever seen an erupting volcano?
No.
Would you ever want to?
Sure, yeah.
I would too.
At a safe distance.
Yeah, at a safe distance, of course. I
mean, I remember like when you're in Oregon and you drive up the highway and you can see all the volcanoes, and you can see volcanoes from California. If you're in Southern Oregon, I would always pass by Mount St. Helens. You could see that was cratered in.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool to see a volcanic explosion.
I one time read something where someone got married on a volcano.
Oh.
So I thought that was really, really cool. I mean,
was it an extinct volcano?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. I mean, I don't think it was. I mean, if it was erupting, that would have been more than one explosion. It would have been the explosion of the wedding, but also.
Exactly.
So hopefully, I think I just saw it online one time. I'm not exactly sure. It might not even be a credible source. I think I just read it one time. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool.
People have just some really cool interests.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I saw one time, okay, like this is just off the cuff, but you know how like some couples like they work out together.
Yeah.
So I saw this one fitness couple, they got married, and you know how like a bride will wear, I don't know, a garter.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so they used an elastic, like a gym elastic, because they're gym heads and they work out together.
Yeah.
They used a gym elastic as the garter.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of clever, but, me being me, I'm like, wouldn't that be uncomfortable? I mean, I don't know, but.
Or, don't tie it too tightly.
Yeah.
Your bride's going to lose her leg.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Belinda, that's all I have today. So thank you so much for taking the time, sitting and chatting with me, opening up your classroom. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and just talking with me.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate that, and I think it will be good to raise some awareness about ALS. And please, if anybody out there's listening, please donate to the ALS Association. It's a very underfunded disease. There will be a cure, but we just really need funding.
Thank you so much for those final words. Couldn't agree more. You heard it from her. Please, it is a very underfunded disease. Because I know that a few years back they were dumping ice. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And at the time, I think everyone was just dumping ice just to dump ice. But I'm not sure if people understood the nature or the magnitude that was behind it.
I think they raised something like $210 million, but that was in 2014. We have not had anything like that since then.
So we need to do it again.
We need another reawakening.
Yeah, we need to do it again. We need to do it again. And you know what? I think after today, I think I'll try to do like an ice bucket challenge again. Maybe you know what we should do? A polar plunge. You know what that is when you like go into the beach in the winter?
Yeah.
There you go, a polar plunge for ALS.
Perfect time for it.
Yeah, I love it. We're in the middle of winter. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Reyes Reflection Podcast. Do not forget to subscribe, follow the show for free, and of course, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at I'm Nathanael Reyes. And remember, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I know this was a very emotional episode. It was for me. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I'm Oprah as a dude, and I love you all.